So a few months back, Don't Nod, the developers of the original Life is Strange and Life is Strange 2, dropped the trailer to their new game, Lost Records Bloom & Rage. Their new Life is Strange series, basically, since Deck 9 is the studio that is now responsible for the future of Life is Strange. This is the direction Don't Nod is going, and out the gate, I was excited. I love the original Life is Strange. I'm a big fan of Life is Strange 2, I think it's underrated, and I've been trying to cover this game as much as I can since. And recently, like a few days ago, we got another trailer, and it looks great. We even got a few details on the story, characters, and the place that this game is going to take place in. So I'm going to play the trailer here, and then we will talk about the characters and some of the story beats. So with all that being said, let's get into it.
Hello, little bird. Goodbye, Velvet Cove. I'll soon be flying away too.
I've got a feeling I can't explain. I feel different, I'm not the same.
Rude. This is Swan Holloway. And if you find this video, it's because I'm dead.
It looks great. The song goes off, by the way. These games are always a vibe, and I love it, personally. So we meet our new main character, Swan Holloway, and see some of the friend group that we will follow, or at least her friend group. They show us the town that we're going to be playing in, Velvet Cove. So I have this post that explains the story briefly and gives us small details on our main cast, so let's get into that. Rewind back to 1995 and Lost Records of Bloom & Rage, a brand new narrative adventure from the creative minds behind the critically acclaimed series Life is Strange. Film your last summer in Velvet Cove playing as Swan, a quirky introvert who loves capturing reality through the lens of her trusty camcorder. Get to know Nora, the rebellious firecracker, Autumn, the thoughtful leader, and Kat, the enigmatic and strong-willed. From making music videos in Nora's garage to sharing secrets under the stars, to discovering dark places shrouded in mystery. It's going to be a summer packed with unforgettable moments for this newfound sisterhood. So I guess just to go off for a second, it looks like that even though we see this friend group and they seem pretty close in the first trailer that we got, it seems that this is a new friendship that built up over the course of the summer of 1995. I find that very interesting. Anyways, as the summer comes to an end, so does their friendship. A downward spiral culminates in an unexplained event that makes them promise to never see each other again. Now, 27 years later, that's a long-ass time, fate reunites them to confront the long-buried secret that they left behind in 1995. The girls' promise made all those years ago forever altered the course of their lives. The reason behind this promise is in your hands as you make choices both in the past and present to shape the narrative of both timelines in 1995 and in 2022. What really happened that summer? So we have our main character, Swan Holloway, this girl right here, and her friends, Nora, Kat, and Autumn, and they are best friends, or they become best friends over the course of the summer of 1995 until something wild happens, and they don't even reunite until 27 years later. Sounds like a kind of less scary version of like It. Friend group comes across something crazy, maybe even scary, and leave their childhood town only to reunite over 2 decades later. I mean, come on. But I'm honestly here for it. I think the cast looks great. They sound interesting. The story sounds super interesting. The town looks cozy. Velvet Cove is going to basically be the new Arcadia Bay from Life is Strange 1. Which there are a good couple comparisons between this game and Life is Strange, which is totally fine, of course. A thing I've noticed so far is Swan's hobby, filming. As we all know, Max from the original Life is Strange had her camera. She took pictures, and Sean from Life is Strange 2. He had a sketchbook and a journal. So they all have that in common. The small town vibe, just as I mentioned. And even the friend group has that vibe in a way. Some of them remind me of characters from the original Life is Strange. But I like this a lot. It's basically going to be Donut's new Life is Strange series, like I said. Deck 9, they're making the new Life is Strange 3 or 4. We made a video on that recently. Go check that out when you're done here. Donut has moved on for whatever reason. I'm sure the reason was a good reason, but anyways. From the trailer, we mainly get to see the setting in which the game takes place, and it's even talked about in an interview with a lot of other information with the creative directors Michel Koch and Luke Bagadoo. It says, Velvet Cove sets the scene for Lost Records' Bloom and Rage, the new narrative adventure from the creators of Life is Strange. My first proper glimpse of the fictional Michigan town, so this game is taking place primarily in Michigan, comes into focus through the lens of a 90s camcorder with the grainy, lo-fi footage of Donut's latest trailer showing off a series of snapshot memories. The way the video jumps and stutters brings to mind my own childhood days spent making silly home videos on cassette tapes with my sister. But the 1995 vibes come through crystal clear with choker necklaces, skateboards, and the appearance of a troll doll or two. There's no doubting this decade takes place in as the trailer winds down. We end up being introduced to the person behind the camcorder who's documenting her summer, Bloom and Rage's protagonist, Swan Holloway. As you can see with the trailer, like we did with our previous protagonist, Max, in Life is Strange, was using a camera Sean in Life is Strange 2 is drawing. For Swan, she's filming around the world with a camcorder. Creative director Koch tells me that that's something we really like to do for our protagonists, to give them a way to look at the world that makes sense, but also from a gameplay perspective, because looking at the world is a big part of the interactivity in our game. You interact with environments, with characters, and we love to give you another tool to interact with those. So, with Swan, we'll talk more in detail in the future about how exactly the camcorder works, but it makes up a big part of the gameplay of the game. You can really record videos and use a camcorder for storytelling, for various things. So it is confirmed that this game takes place in Michigan. Now this does get me a little more excited as I am from Michigan. I still live in Michigan, not from a small town, more near the Detroit area, that kind of southernish east area, but still cool. Up north Michigan is beautiful. There's a lot of beauty in Michigan, so I'm sure they'll do it justice. The focus on making this setting feel like the mid-90s, it sounds super sick. And I'm sure the music is going to go off. Personally, from the little that we have, I relate to these characters already. Small group of friends, living in Michigan, skating and just goofing around. I love it. Another thing from this interview, the gameplay mechanic of the camcorder making up a big part of the gameplay. I do wonder, is Swan going to have some type of power with this? Maybe not, but still, being able to look through the lens of an old school camcorder is going to make for some awesome ass vibes, and I really love it. So far, so good. It sounds great. The reason I do bring up Swan having some type of power is because, in a way, like I said like 3 times already, you're probably getting sick of it, this is their Life is Strange 3. I don't know if they really want to go full-blown in that direction. It feels like it. They could go in a completely different direction. I'm sure I'll like it either way. I'm just curious. So the characters and world look and sound great. The story sounds super cool. I think the time gap between 1995 and 2022 is super interesting, with it taking place in this small town, because we play in the 90s and fast forward to 2022 to see the world change, as 27 years is quite a long time. There's definitely going to be some change in this town. I can't wait to see how they handle that. So going back to the interview, I'm actually just going to read the rest of it. It goes on saying, Lost Records Bloom and Rage follows the story of 4 friends, Swan, Autumn, Nora, and Kat, who spend a summer together in 1995. As they hang out in Velvet Cove and begin to bond, something happens that changes everything. We won't discover what exactly that something is until the game releases later this year, but it's enough to stop them speaking to one another for 27 years. As the creators behind Life is Strange, the team at Don't Nod are no strangers to bringing to life relatable characters and likewise helping us form a connection to them as the players. The group will have their own distinctive personalities that will either bring them closer together or make them clash depending on your choices as Swan, who Koch describes as a positive introvert, meaning that she doesn't see her introversion as a flaw or something that she has to overcome. Just like Donut's previous games, Swan's story will put an emphasis on relationships, but where Life is Strange 1 and 2 focused on the bonds between two central characters, Bloom and Rage is instead exploring the dynamics of a group and how the links between Swan, Nora, Autumn, and Kat can influence or alter our path as we navigate through the adventure. We really wanted to focus on a group dynamic, Kosh says, not only having two characters like in our previous games, but having four characters because the group dynamics is something very different. When you find the group, it can clearly make you stronger. It can make you be a squad, a pack against adversity. But you can also be pushed to do things that you wouldn't do by yourself, or maybe that's even against your core beliefs. And you have to take a stand. Do you follow the group? Or do you take a stand against the group? Do you accept the peer pressure? It's never easy to say to your friends that they're wrong, for example, and that's something that's really interesting in a dynamic like that. How do you navigate within a group? Kosh continues. So relationships are really important in the game. One of the core mechanics, core systems, is really to drive and establish the relationship between Swan and each of the other characters. Who are you getting the closest to as adventure advances? Who is getting close and becoming best friends? Who maybe do you even have a crush on? We are working with all those dynamics within the game. And you will discover the characters in two timelines, in the past in 1995, but also in 2022 when they're adults. And they have to reconnect after not seeing each other for 27 years. That's a long-ass time. And we felt that it was also very compelling to discover how you can reconnect with people. You have experienced something in the past, but you've grown apart. Are you still connecting with them? Can you still be friends, or are you very different after life has passed? The idea of meeting the group 27 years later after the mysterious event has transpired is certainly an intriguing one as we explore Swan's memories of 1995 and switch to the present, in this case 2022. Kosh explains that's a huge aspect of the game. We'll be making choices in both timelines that will change the story in both the past and present. One example he gives me is whether or not you decide to let Swan drink alcohol as a teenager, which will directly change the memories you experienced during that summer when you play in the past memories, Kosh says. A lot of what you say and do here will directly change the backstory in the past and the consequences in the present. That sounds so good. With the choice and consequence at the heart of the game, the team is also putting more emphasis on the dialogue system. Alongside making choices at specific moments, Kosh explains that there will also be more naturalistic dialogue that will represent how it is to be a part of a group. You, in a much more dynamic way, will be able to interrupt, intervene, or maybe decide not to say anything when the group is talking, Kosh adds. And this will bring a lot of choice and variation within the group and the relationship system with who you are getting close to. So we are using a lot of those two mechanics to drive all the choices and create branches in the narrative. We'll talk at a later date about what you can do with a camcorder. But what you are filming with your camcorder will also play a big part in the gameplay, in the storytelling, but also sometimes in the branches of the game. After studying the previous games in the Pacific Northwest, the team saw an opportunity to bring Lost Records to a fresh backdrop. Having recently moved to Canada to work at Don't Nod Montreal, Kosh was inspired to bring Swan's story to the shores of Lake Superior in the United States. Since she lives on the other side of the lake in Ontario later in life, by doing research, the team were drawn to northern Michigan and their lore and community of the peninsula which Velvet Cove draws from. Part of Life is Strange's DNA is an episodic format, which Bloom and Rage is also following, albeit in a slightly different way, by releasing 2 parts. So that's a big thing right there. There's only 2 parts, with a month's break in between. Both Kosh and executive producer Luke Bagadoo speak fondly on the fan theories that cropped up during the release of each episode for Life is Strange 1 and 2. And by breaking Bloom and Rage into 2 parts, with not too long of a wait time in between, the team hopes it will give us space to let the events of the story sink in, and possibly bring us together to theorize about what will happen next. Not unlike the way, as Kosh recalls, fans would discuss the events of Game of Thrones after the release of each weekly episode. With Bloom and Rage giving us our first taste of the new Lost Records universe, because they do plan to do multiple games of this, by the way, there are already plans to bring us future stories, after Swans. And as Don't Nod's own IP, it's certainly an exciting time for the studio and for narrative adventure fans. With episodic games, What was really great was the opportunity to see how things go while you create them, and it brings new ideas and new stuff, Begaduce says. And the writers have amazing ideas for what will come next. I know the more ideas will come up along the way, and to me, that's one of the most exciting parts along with this project, Bloom and Rage, is the potential for what's coming next. So that's the gist of it. This sounds honestly great. There's branching narratives. It looks like we're going to flip-flop in between 1995 and 2022, and each choice and each timeline affects each timeline. Sounds super complicated, but I'm here for it. I really hope they can pull that off. Love that it takes place in Michigan. The friends seem pretty cool. The time eras that this game takes place in seem really, really fun. Love the 90s, and 2022 was a pretty good year for me at least, so it'll be really cool to see this and see what comes of this, and I can't wait to see more in the future. I'm super excited, like I said, to meet the characters, unpack the story, see this town, and bump that soundtrack, because around these parts, we love a good soundtrack. But that's all we really have so far on Lost Records. It's a good amount. It's still slated to release in late 2024. I'm going to guess, honestly, October. I feel like that's like a good time to release this. We still obviously don't know. I'm just making an assumption here, but I can't wait for this game already. It's on my wish list, waiting to pre-order. I will do my best to keep up with the news on this game and play it when it comes out. So what do you think? Are you hyped? Do you not care? Let me know in the comments below, but if you made it this far in the video, thank you. You are awesome. But that's all I got for you today. Be sure to share, like, and subscribe to see more of what I've done and what's to come. But anyways, thanks for coming, and thanks for watching.
This is Swan Holloway. And if you find this video, it's because I'm dead.